Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning.
This afternoon. Oh my goodness. Good morning. I was thinking about the people in Brazil watching us. So Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Toronto Spirit Society. To those joining us on the internet, welcome to you as well. It's great to be back with all of you. We hope you all had a blessed holiday season, and we wish you all a great new year, full of blessings, full of learning, full of accomplishments. I'm very excited because we have a great program taking shape for us this year with the intent of giving us some ammunition, some spiritual ammunition to cope with the challenge that we all have in our homes, in our hearts. So things are still in progress. Next week we have our planning day, so we don't have a lecture next Sunday. It's our planning day. Everyone is invited to come. It will not be broadcasted through the internet, but everyone here can come and provide your input, your feedback on the activities that we have on the TSS, and also influence how things will take shape throughout the year. But without further ado, today we start January doing a little recap about Christmas. We all had a Christmas with our family members. Many had presents, but the message of Christmas should not stay there on December 25th. That's why we decided to start the year thinking about Christmas. What's really the meaning of Christmas? And why should we keep the message of Christmas throughout the new year, which is already starting? So we have our brother Rafael, who will deliver the message about Christmas today. Welcome. But before we get into it, I'll ask our dear Olivia to read the initial reading for us. Olivia is part of our TSS youth group, so if you have a youth, if you're watching us, if you're here in Toronto, bring the young people here to give us some ideas and to start learning about Spiritism. And after the reading, we'll do our initial prayer and we'll go to the lecture. Olivia.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be reading chapter 11 from the book Happy Life by Givaldo Pereira Franco and Joana de Angelis. Be everyone's friend. Friendship is a treasure of the spirit to be shared with others. Like the sun, it radiates happiness to all who receive it. There is an immense shortage of friends on earth, and this causes conflicts and suspicions, imbalance and insecurity. When friendship is lacking, man is at risk. Be the kind friend, even if, for the time being, you experience misunderstandings and difficulties.
So let us all close our eyes. And in an individual effort, let's try to leave outside our worries, our concerns or tasks and commitments that we have in the afternoon today. And let us bring our minds and hearts together right here in these very few moments to connect with the good spirits here present, with our guardian angels or protector spirits who are here among us, with God, our Creator. We thank you, God, for the blessing of this day, for our lives, our families, for our health, and for the opportunity that we have today to be here, sharing this blessed environment, receiving this spiritual treatment, these spiritual energies, since this very moment until the end of this short meeting. We ask your blessings to our brother Rafael, in charge of facilitating the study this morning. We also ask your blessings to all of those watching us at home, on the go, wherever they are, to all the volunteers of the Toronto Spiritist Society who could not join us. We thank you, and so be it. Rafael?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So it's good to see so many people here in the first speech of the year. And I hope you guys are not fed up of Christmas. This presentation was scheduled for December 25th, but there will be so few people in the country, so that we decided to postpone to today. However, Christmas is much more than just December 25th. It's just more than one day celebration. It brings us a message, and that it has to be carried on for the whole year. That is why Emmanuel tells us that Christmas is before the New Year's Eve, so that we can remember what life is about. What are the instructions that Jesus brought to us, so then we can start the new year with that in our hearts. So in this situation, we decided that even if Christmas, the Christmas day is past, it is still important to remember what is it about. So that will be our first lecture of the year. So the idea today is to talk a little bit about the history and the symbols that we use for Christmas, and sometimes we have no idea where they came from. And then we start smoothly transition to the real meaning, or the meaning that we give to those symbols. So right after Jesus, when he had gone back to the spiritual world, the followers, the so-called Christians, or we started to call ourselves Christians, the followers of Christ, we decided that would be a good thing to celebrate his birth, or the nativity, the birth of Christ. So very soon, when I say very soon, maybe a century or century and a half after Jesus had gone back to the spiritual world, we started celebrating his coming, which was a huge charity act. So he didn't need to come here. He didn't need to come to us. He could have sent his emissaries or the people who work for him, but he decided to come himself, even though he knew that he would suffer. He decided to show us how to go through the sufferings of life, and he came to us himself. And through the Spiritist readings, this psychograph by Chico Xavier and Divaldo Franco, we know that it was really hard for him to take such a solid form as this body. So he's so far away. He's not far away. When I say far away, it's in the meaning of condensation. He's in such a different vibration, different frequency, that for him to incarnate in a body like ours, he has to incarnate actually several times. Like you peel off an onion and then you have to put the layers back on. So that's what he did. And it was a very long process, and he did it anyway. So even the early Christians, they understood that. They understood that it was an important thing to reunite some day of the year, and to think about that, and to be grateful for him for his coming to us, and to deliver in person, and to show us in practice what we should do, how we should trace the steps, how we should go through the narrow door. So even in the early days, people celebrated Christmas. But the date used to change. We don't have a clear idea what the date was. But we know that as early as 250 AD, we had Christmas celebrations. This is the catacomb of Saint Priscilla in Rome. So, if you guys remember, in 250, Christianism was forbidden. The Roman Empire dominated most of the civilized world. Maybe there was a few other civilizations, but the most powerful one was the Roman Empire. And in 250 it was forbidden to be a Christian, which was something weird, because in the Roman Empire they had the Pax Romana. What does that mean? It means that they see a place, they see a country, they like it, they go there, they slaughter everybody, and they take that as a province, and then they institute peace. So as long as you pay taxes, you can do whatever you want. You can have your religion, you can have your gods, I don't care. Just pay taxes. So then they put a governor there. But with Christianism and Judaism, it was different, because it was too powerful, and they had already had a war. I believe it was in 79 AD, because of the religion. The people, they were very united, so it was very strong. So because of that, they were afraid of Christianism, so it was forbidden. So because of that, as I believe we all know, the first Christians, they used to hold the ceremonies in the catacombs, so that they could be secret. It was kind of a secret society. So in this catacomb of Saint Priscilla, we have the images of the celebration of Christmas. And it was carbon dated to 250 AD. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see, but here is Mary, and she's carrying Jesus, and there's another figure here that we think is Joseph. So it was a celebration of Christmas. So today, 2,000 years later, or around 2,000 years later, we still celebrate Christmas. But through the centuries, we inherited a lot of symbols. We do a lot of rituals on Christmas. We all do our rituals. And I believe that most of the time we have no idea why we are doing it. We do not know, and we know at the same time. I'm going to explain that later. So the first symbol that I want to talk about is Santa, or Saint Nicholas. Why do we have this figure of Santa Claus? Santa Claus is Saint Nicholas. It's just another, I think it's German. But Saint Nicholas was a very rich Christian. So he was raised by rich Christian parents who died very early, so he inherited all the wealth. So he was very wealthy. And he lived around 270, from 270 to 343 of the Roman Empire, in the Roman Empire, in the place where we call today Turkey. So he was very rich, and he was raised by his uncle, and his uncle was a priest, so he was raised to be a priest too. So very early he started working the clergy. But he was a very good person. He had a very good heart, and he really believed in spreading Christianism. And one of the things that he used to do is to distribute secretly presents or gifts to the poor. There has always been poor people around. So the poor people, they started to put shoes in the windows so that he could put presents inside. He didn't want to say that it was him. He used to do that in the early hours of the night, so the 1, 2, 3 a.m. So he helped a lot, and this is not just what he did, only distributing gifts. He did a lot of things. So if you read his story, his biography, so people start, well, in the end they figure out that it was him, that it was distributing gifts, and he started to be loved. So people liked him a lot in the community that he lived. And also he became famous, let's say famous like that, because in 330, depends on the author, 330 to 125 AD, there was a council, a very important council called the Council of Nicaea. Have you guys heard of it? Well, Christianism, as I said, was forbidden. But there was one emperor, Constantinus, that he became Christian. He learned about Christianism from his servant and then from other people that he had contact with, and that really warmed his heart. So right away he said that's the path that I want to follow. And at that time the Roman Empire was divided in two. So there were two emperors. So he put the empire back together, not with prayer, with a lot of blood. So that's one thing, that he believed in Jesus, but he was still a warrior. And once the empire was won again, was a whole, he instituted Christianism as the official religion. So that was a huge difference from forbidden and being eaten alive by the lions in the circus. Now we are allowed to express our religion. So when he decided to do that, he called all the religious leaders, not only from Christianism, but from the normal traditional Roman religion too, to see how can we fuse this, how can we make everybody happy, because there was a lot of Christians and a lot of Romans or pagans, and you cannot please only one of those, because they had a lot of civil wars, so he didn't want to create another one. So he had this council, the Council of Nicaea, where everybody sit and they decided which will be the books that we're going to put in the Bible and which will be the books that we're not going to put there. And they decided a lot of things. And Saint Nicholas was in this council, and he was almost aggressive in defending Christianism and defending the principles that we live on today. And the debate was so fierce that he actually punched one of the other leaders. So he became famous with all this in his life. So he became one of the most venerated saints in Christmas time. So there used to be a lot of saints, but then Christmas had been back and forth. There was even a time in England where Christmas was forbidden. You weren't allowed to celebrate Christmas. So in the end, he became the most important saint that is celebrated today in Christmas. And then they gave him a few clothes. Now it's red and with a black belt, and they put him in the North Pole. I don't know why they put him in the North Pole, but he's there now. But originally he's from Turkey. So actually, the elves, they should be working in Turkey instead of North Pole. So another thing that people discuss a lot, it's the date of Christmas. Should be December 25th or January 6th, or well, if you guys have seen in the news, the Greek Orthodox, they had just celebrated Christmas. So we still don't have one single date, but the majority of the Western world celebrate on December 25th. But why? Why do we celebrate on December 25th? So there were a lot of people who talked about that. There was Clement of Alexandria. There was Tertullian of Carthage, Hippolytus from Rome, and there is a a document called the Pascha Computus. It's like a table that is based on the lunar cycle that they use to calculate Easter. So if you use that table and you go back, you'll see that they place the date of the nativity of the birth of Christ in March 25th. So it's completely off of the date that we celebrate. But most of the other ones, they really date since the beginning in December 25th. And one of them, as I said, was this guy, Tertullian of Carthage. So if you guys remember, Carthage was a very important city. Actually, Carthage was part of another empire that they had a very huge war, and eventually they became a Roman province. And this guy was another very fierce Christian, and he studied the scriptures a lot. This was very important. We have to understand that to celebrate Christmas, to have the right to celebrate Christmas, it's like the right to vote. It's something that had been acquired through a lot of pain and bloodshed. So for them to be able to celebrate Christmas was something very important. So they really wanted to know what is the right date. What is the right day that Jesus was born? So that's why there was a lot of studies. So this guy, he placed, through his studies, he placed the date of Christmas between December 25th and January 6th. So we still live in this range. But there is a more important document that we still live by today. In the Roman Empire, there was this document called the Philocadian Chronograph. It's the list of all the holidays that they had in the Roman Empire. And we see here Natalis Invicti. So that's Christmas. So this is the Julian calendar. It's a little different than the Gregorian calendar that we still use today. So this was, the only difference is the name of the month. But this is still the calendar that we use today. It's for 45 before Christ. And right after Constantinus allowed Christians to be Christians, allowed Christianism and made Christianism the official religion, they could choose any day that they wanted to be a holiday, to celebrate Christmas. So the day that they choose was a day that had been taken before. So December 25th is the day of Mithras. It's a Roman deity. It means the unconquered sun. So it was a very important god that the generals of the Roman Empire, the warriors, used to adorar, to adore, worship. in a cave. That's why we still live in civilizations, and we can only live in this civilization. Society can only work if everybody does a little part. It became such a complex organism that there was a lot of things that we need to do. So that's why we have a lot of professions. So every single profession is important for the functionality of the society. Of course, sometimes the vision or the goal of that single profession, sometimes it needs to be changed to people again and not towards money. But we are all important. And I truly see Christmas as being a reminder of this, the importance of people in our lives. And this was said to us by Jesus in his second commandment, which he says, love your neighbors as you love yourself. So we love our sisters and our brothers or whoever is close to us, whoever we have contact with, as we love ourselves. So this, I know that we hear this a lot, but we also forget this a lot. So the other thing that he said, that Jesus, the first commandment, I said the second commandment, the first commandment is, love your God above all things. So what do we get from that? How do we love God? Well, this is another slide related to family. So that's, at least is what I see when I put all the evergreen and all the symbols and rituals of Christmas. I really, it doesn't matter to me the old meaning of those symbols. What matters to me is this. It's that my family will be there and the house will look comfy. So even though we know now that those symbols are not directly related to Christ, but is related to family, so we can make the relation. So it doesn't matter. We can all decorate our houses since we know that this is a real meaning. So about how to love God, there's a book called Psychology of Gratitude by Joanna de Angelis. I don't know if you guys read. It's a very good book, and she brings an important concept that we overlook most of the time, which is gratitude. It's not just saying thanks to other people, but it's a feeling of, how can I explain that? It's being grateful by everything that we are and everything that we have. So we receive life. We are here now, we experience good things, we experience bad things, but we are alive. We are alive because we were created. And we experience pain sometimes because we are being driven to happiness. So every day that we wake up in the morning, it's a new chance. It's a new day that we have in this planet, in this incarnation. We need this incarnation, even though I know sometimes it's heavy, but we need this time here. And we are going to receive one more day. And when we go to sleep at night, we should be grateful for the day that we had. So we had one more day. And sometimes we are going to bed with the person that we love. We have our house, we have a roof over our heads, so we have a comfort. So this feeling of gratitude, it's something that fills us up. And that, it's what is love God above all things. It's to have this in us all the time, our hearts full of gratitude for life, because of life. Nothing in special, nothing like the weather, or because my job is this, my job is that, or because the roads were free. It's much more than that. It's something that it's constant. It has to be nourished in us, in us. And this gratitude, it starts taking the place of the small psychological problems and diseases that we all have in our hearts and brains. So Joanna de Angelis, she tells us that gratitude means the pleasing acknowledgement of everything that is received or bestowed upon. So we already received. We should not wait for anything else to be grateful for. We have already received that. We have already been blessed just by being here. So when we start this process of trying to nourish gratitude on us, in the beginning, a dutiful emotion assists in freeing the individual from the anxiety of possession and accumulation. We already know that we have everything we need. So there is no need to feel anxious about the things that we don't have, or try to accumulate more and more and more things. We already have everything that we need to be happy. Judgment endows a comprehension that everything is dynamic in the universe, a means of giving and receiving, creating and rewarding, and that any stationary behavior appropriates the onset of infirmities, maladjustments, and death. What is the death she's talking about? We know that we cannot die. We don't die. Death, it's when we decide not to participate. It's when we decide to place our life's goal away from people. So it's when we cease to be God's instrument. So when we saw this throughout the last year, that we have been created as social beings, so we need ourselves. We need to share. If something very good happens to us and we have nobody to share with us, there's no meaning. Why have that anyway? We want to share. We want to call someone. We want to tell someone if something really good happened to us. That's because we need this sharing of energy. So when we don't do that, it's when we suffer this psychological death. We are not being useful at all. And she says here too, the dynamic of the universe. So everything changes, everything moves away, but people are eternal. We all change, of course, inside, but we'll always exist, and we always relate to each other. When adults become aware of this evocation, a realm of joy fills their inner selves. So all this, to me, is directly related to the real meaning of Christmas, gratitude, and to understand that we are alive and to be grateful for all that we have received and try to keep that inside of us. We are in January already, but the meaning of Christmas, it should not end in December 25th. It should continue with us. We all know that it's hard. We come here and we feel grateful, we feel joy, we feel a lot of things, but it seems that it's like a battery. We charge and then we go through our lives and start discharging, and we start having problematic thoughts. We have our anxieties back, then we come back here and recharge. But the thing is, every time we charge and we discharge, we never discharge. I'm doing an analogy because I'm always working with batteries. So every time we discharge, it never goes back to the same level that we were before. We never discharge that much. We always a little bit better. Every time is a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And through the years and lives, we're going to feel the difference. So those are the small victories that we have, and that's why we keep coming back. But because we know that they are there. They are small, but they are there. We are accumulating. We are accumulating goodness in our hearts. And we are replacing that by all the darkness that we have. And then, opposing all that, we have this very sad image that we all know, Boxing Day or Black Friday. So this represents the emptiness of our hearts. So how can a holiday that starts with Christ be related to this? What does that have to do with the teachings that I was talking about? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love God above all things. How can that be related by a couple of TVs? So that's the emptiness that we have in us. We are trying to fill that, to fill it out with possession. So we think that by buying something very expensive, we're going to feel better about our lives. And then it comes the depression. So we go there and very excited and we buy whatever we want to buy. And after we install in our house, then we feel, yeah, it's not what I was waiting for. It's not the feeling that I was waiting for. And then it comes the depression that I spend all that money and it doesn't make me more happy. But that is exactly why even at the day of Christmas, the real meaning, it has already been forgotten. That's why we need to remember. Christmas is not a date. It's all those teachings, and the gratitude and love for people that we have to keep inside us throughout the year, so that this doesn't happen. I'm fairly sure that if those people, they were sitting around drinking coffee or hot chocolate and talking about life, they would be much happier than fighting for a TV. We all know that, but if we forget that. Even in First World War, they stopped the war to celebrate Christmas. They only went back to war because of the generals that forced them to start fighting again. But they didn't want it anymore. They wanted to get along. They wanted to sit around and celebrate Christmas. Because we are people. By nature, we like each other. We just forget. There are other things that they come to our heads, and anxieties, as Joanna and Genevieve were saying, that makes us forget that we like each other. And we feel pleasure in talking and sharing with each other. We just have to remember that. We just have to remember that. So, this is a message from the book Mediumistic Anthology of Christmas. So the history, the mediumistic history of Christmas, psychographed by Chico Xavier, when he says, Christmas is not just the promise of fraternity and peace that is happily renewed between humankind, but above all, it is the Christ message reiterated, which induces us to serve always and to comprehend that the world may have deficiencies and imperfections, darkness and wounds, but it is our duty to love it and improve it in spite of all. So it's our world, and it's our duty to try to make it better. So how do we do that? Well, several ways. The best way is by our example. Instead of making enemies, try to make friends. Instead of being confrontational, being fraternal. If it was easy, we weren't being here. We don't need to learn easy lessons. What we need is the hard lessons. The hard lessons are the ones that bring us up and make us better, not the easy ones. And Merry belated Christmas to everybody, and Happy New Year. So let us not forget the meaning of Christmas through all this year, and so that when we get to the next Christmas, we are already in the Christmas spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael. questions or comments here in the room to Rafael? Livia, if there's anything on the internet, please do let us know. I think that was a beautiful message, Rafael, and that was really the goal. That we do not let the message of Christmas fade in our hearts throughout the new year, which just started. And then we all should make an analysis on how was our Christmas, right? How was our Christmas was aligned with this message or not? And not feel depressed or bad if we forget, if we bought so much and now in January we have so many bills and the mood at home is very stressful because we have bills to pay. Because as Rafael said, we learn day by day, step by step. And right now we actually have a chance to start shaping the Christmas of 2017. So we have plenty of time to start working on it, right? But the message of Jesus, we have these celebrations to actually give us a wake-up call, right? Hey, what is this all about? While some of us are shopping for those giant TVs that we'll put on the walls, and next year we want to buy another one, there's a lot of people who barely have something to eat, or who are in the hospitals, or who lost a loved one who discarnated, or people who have their lives teared apart because of drug addiction. So what kind of Christmas should we have if we are in that circumstances, right? And that's the importance of the message of Jesus for us. Not so much the gifts, the material gifts, but the spiritual gifts that Jesus brought to us. Because if we look at his life, he brings us a message of encouragement, a message of hope. Speaking the language of nowadays, Jesus was bullied from end to end, right? He was beaten up, we spit on his face, he was stoned, he was crucified, he was murdered. Nonetheless, he gave us a message of forgiveness, of humility. He is the spiritual governor of the planet, the most enlightened spirit who ever touched this earth. And he made himself the least. And when it's Christmas time, we always think about ourselves. We think about the presents. We think about receiving. And when we have those Santa, mystery Santa, what? A soap bar? Right? What is that? So we forget that his message is about giving. And it's all about me, all about me. So it's a learning process. And one day we'll get to the point we will be thinking at the Christmas time of serving. And it could be, serving something material, serving soup or sharing your clothes instead. But serving at home, right? If you complain that things are not clean at home, go and clean, serve, right? If you see someone tired of cooking every day, go and cook. Start serving at home. Because sometimes it's easy to serve outside, to come here to the TSS and serve in a lecture. Everybody sees it. But we should serve in our inner self. Sometimes praying for someone, serving. Sometimes giving a call to someone who we don't talk for such a long time. Right? That's really the message of Christmas. And it's coming in a couple months from now, the Easter, which is a beautiful segue to the message of Christmas, right? And we do have a couple lectures that will touch on the message of Easter for us, which is a continuation. The whole life of Jesus for us is a reminder of why we are here, right? And Rafael said very well, I love what you said, we like each other, we just forgot. Because we are all brothers and sisters. We were created by the same Creator, God. Why so much hatred between religions, between sects, between people with different sexual preference, between people with different colors, we forgot that we love each other. Because the law of God is in us, and Jesus came here to remind us, right? The gospel is here to remind us. So Christmas is here to remind us. So let's make a joint effort to remind ourselves. And that's why it's so important that we are together as a community here. Because no one knows more than each other. There's no one in our families here that have no problem at all. We just have different problems. We just know different things. Or we don't know different things. But we are in the same boat, right? So that's our wish of a Merry Christmas throughout the year to all of you and to all of you at home as well. And that's my final call. Livia, anything on the internet? Okay, thank you. So thank you very much on the internet for watching and for being here with us. So Happy New Year once again. And happy belated Christmas. Any comments or questions over here? If not, I'll thank you very much. We will wrap up and start our passes right now. Thank you. Thanks, Rafael. Thank you.